In short videos, there may be 6 or 7 of them. I was talking about the idea of nothingness, but before that, I was talking about from the Bible the phrase at the beginning is word. And at the end of that 6 or so video, I came to the conclusion, which I thought may have gone through certain steps. And since it's a bit cumbersome to pick one video and to the other, I thought I would just summarize the whole thing in 10 minutes or less if I can. The idea is related first with the word from the Bible. In the beginning is word. And I said, before the beginning, there's nothingness. It sounds like a play of word, but I mean it, because the word exists, okay, fine. We can call that as the beginning, because that's how the human developed, gotten kicked out of the Garden of Eden, where we start to see good, bad, beautiful, ugly, right, wrong, and felt embarrassed or whatever the emotion that can come with us. But the word is the invention of human or whoever, and that's the beginning. I can take that. But before that state, when there is no word, there's no way of characterizing except in the Bible. It talks about the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve haven't eaten the fruit of knowledge, and they were at peace in mind, because there's no mind. The mind is the faculty to use the word with logic to make sense of it, so that you can use the word and the logic in a manner that may suit us. And that's how we humans develop compared to other species. So it sounds like a great idea, but it came with the price of psychological burden or the conflict among the words or the logic that never end. Because if you try to explain the state of as it is by word, you can't. It will take forever, but you still cannot, because there's always a question to go over whatever you have said. Just like I said, at the beginning is word. But what about before the beginning of the word? So that's the mind thinking, always as if to look for the loophole or possibility to make it complete. But in my word, or maybe in the Bible too, there's a pain, the sin that, well, I don't want to call it sin, but in the Bible it's a sin, original sin, whatever the term, that we have the burden to carry. But let me just go through the logic as I mentioned about those 6 or 7 videos. Sorry for the taking time, but it takes some concentration, but it's not too difficult once you get to it. So when I say nothingness as the absolute state before the beginning of the world, where the dualistic state happened, that absolute state is like a Garden of Eden that exists from the beginning, this beginning, till the end of its end, because it's the world with the laws of nature prevailing, no human mind and word and logic to get into it. So it's just the state of as it is, and there's nothing to talk about it. Because that's what it is. And actually, if I may insert one sentence, then you cannot talk about it, because it's just the intuitive grasp of what it is. And I want to touch on that one in this video. So what is that intuitive sense? Which is to first know what that nothingness is before anything. And how do you find nothingness? And one way that people are more familiar these days is They call it mindfulness, but I hate the word mindful. It's not mindful. I want it to be mind empty practice, because meditation is meant to be not play with word. Dualistic plays, we are all familiar with playing this and that and get struggling, and the pain and the suffering can come with it, or confusion for us to go through, and we need wisdom and compassion. So what's the source of wisdom and compassion? And I'm saying without a video too, is our heart and original being, and the state of original being is before the word, i.e. nothingness. And what's nothingness? In meditation, this mind empty or mindful practice, such a contradiction, is that you let go of the thought. When you meditate, you focus on breathing or inner body sensation, or maybe hearing, and there are many ways to do it, or even smell and the mantra. Whatever the focus you have, to not to have the words get into the way, but you get to the state of absolute being. That sounds very mouthful word. What's that absolute being? And one way of explaining by word is nothingness. Nothing in your thought. That's meditation. And what equate that state is no mind. And we are so used to use the mind because we are told by parents and friends to use word and logic all the time. And we are so proud of it because that's how we evolved from this state of animal or whatever to who we are. But to come with it is the pain and suffering to go with that dualistic notion, right and wrong, and endless process of ideology and what have you. And AI may help, but that's one direction of progression if we can succeed. You never know the pain and suffering and what can come with AI. There's lots of danger. But the other direction, to get to the same, or at least similar, I would like to call it more ideal state, is to learn this no mind. And since we are trained to use words, and not to be trained to not to use word and mind, so it's very troublesome. So many people struggle when you start to meditate. You can't stand it for more than 5 minutes. Even Yuval Noah Harari, at the end, he may still do this 60-day course at Vipassana. I'm familiar with Vipassana because I had the awakening, but that's another story. But the point of that, and any meditation, or even mantra and the chanting and the prayer, is to let the mind calm and still so that you can see things as it is, not you think what they are with mind and logic. So it's counterintuitive to the way we are trained, but that's something Indians found, as if they also found zero as the base of the, math, arithmetics. The no mind or nothingness is the foundation. Maybe they didn't use that word, but they came to realize the state of no mind and nothingness to go with it. So let's spend a little time about what this nothingness is like. To me, it's really profound. It's not easy to get it because it is going almost opposite of the mind, because mind says do this, do that. And you think, why am I sitting for no reason, no mind? What's the point of it? Because that's how you're trained. But if you can break through that, it's like unbundling of the tightened rope, which you yourself tightened by use of mind, like escaping from the pain. Why am I doing it? That's rational in your mind. And I don't know what the percentage, very high percentage of people may have a hard time, so they don't continue. But the aim, if you know the aim and what may come with it, you might go through it to have a breakthrough like I had on the 8th day of Vipassana. Amazing experience, which is like, in short, I was trying to escape from the pain, but when I stopped seeking for escape, that's when that awakening, or you may call enlightenment, happened. It may not be the end of it. You get the sense of it. And what it is that the going beyond the mind and the brain, but we are finally hearing or listening to the heart, which is where we came from, and we have it. And the nothingness has a lot to do with the heart, because mind created reality is not the reality, because you are playing with words and logic, which is endless. But if you let go of it, like a seeking for solution from pain, I accept it because there's no other way. So when you accept everything as it is and be able to see everything as it is, in this case was the pain as it is, but you are so conditioned to escape from the pain. But there was no choice, so I did accept it, and bingo. The origin, the energy, what was contained and suppressed because of the use of the mind, is now released or found a way to express themselves. The source of my life energy popped up because there was no constraint. So no mind, in nothingness, there is something. What that something is, I can call it absolute, or you are in the Garden of Eden before you're eating the fruit of knowledge. Everything as it is. So we have it. We came from there and we lost it. Maybe 99.999% of people were trained to use the brain instead of not using it, because if you're not using it, you're still like an animal. But we have this faculty of the brain, so how do we bridge the gap between what we can to help us to live with words and logic, but not losing the connection to the heart or state of being and accepting everything as it is? That's the whole point of meditation. And the meditation, therefore, is to help you to realize that. But then the story doesn't end, because it may go away. So you want to have it connected, and that requires some level of dedication, or huge level of dedication, because once you have the taste of that nothingness and nirvanic experience, awakening, you don't want to lose it, but you know that the things will get bad, because as we are born and raised from the Garden of Eden to learn skill, and you don't want to let go of the skill, but you want to find a way to live with the brain, but connecting to that original state. So know before your parents are born who you are, the original state. That's kind of like a Zen saying. And once we have that, then we are to live in this interesting state that we want to use the brain where we think is applicable and useful, but be careful in doing it, because if we don't use it right, we get into this delusional state. That's the prerogative of the human, to be in that state, because animals and plants, they don't go through it, but we are familiar with that. Some people suicide and kill each other, and all the nasty thing that happen, the egoistic use of the brain is so powerful. So you go to the extreme, but once you have the notion of as it isness of being, not using the mind and finding everything as it is, and in there is peace, and the state eternally we have been and is, because our body still remembers that and they function. Even the brain says this and that. The hearts keep pumping blood, and lung and all that intestine and everything is functioning. I don't know how much we appreciate, but that's the kind of state of you being in the Garden of Eden. So half of you, I don't know the percentage, we have that origin living, and when it die, you go with it. It's just the law of nature that is manifesting in such a way as absolute. And the other one is the dualistic way of good and bad, right and wrong, what to do. So those two states, once we get to know how that law of nature is manifesting, understand the structure of who we are, and have the awakening experience to start to understand the meaning of nothingness, accepting everything as it is, then you see the world differently. You're not self-occupied. You're not egocentric. You see from different angle. Major angle is connecting to the heart. It's like a you realizing yourself. Mini me, I call it, and the big me. That's one way to say it. There's the heart shining, prevailing, but the mind is doing their dualistic role of what they do. So those two are the paradoxical relationship. One is dualistic, one is non-dualistic but absolute. But you can coexist and connect or find the state that is not occupied in the mind, not just connected to the heart like an animal, but being in this two-state structure, we can resolve the conflict, and it may come out as compassion or wisdom. And all I said is more of a word-based, logic-based story, but this is something to be experienced. So God experienced experiential wisdom that is to be reinforced. Don't lose it, because as much as we lost it and becoming egotistical and trying to get back into line, there's a force to live in the society, good and bad, threat, and how you deal with it, and the suffering. We are to learn how to do it. Each individual has to do it, in my view, right and wrong. But that's what I see, and that's what I want to share, especially in this turbulent world where lots of confusion take over our mind, that we need to have the common quiet mind as a base state, listen to our heart, and find the wisdom to live a life. I hear the cicada singing as if that's the sound of nature. Now it's quiet. Tree is moving in the wind, and I see the sun shining over the ocean. There is that eternal peace we have inside. The nature is speaking. Our body is speaking that language in silence, or listening to the heart is another expression to understand what the laws of the universe is prevailing, manifesting in us. Human mind create their own structure, the way to live. Hope we have a way to bridge, and I hope that this video may trigger some interest to find a path to go through this precious time we have on this earth, which was like a miracle, happened to me and you, to make the most of it. Thank you.